The glass shattered against the wall inches from Vivienne Cross's head, exploding into 1,000 glittering fragments that rained down on the polished hardwood floor. She didn't scream. She'd learned months ago that screaming only made it worse. "You think you can ignore my calls?" Ethan Raines's voice was ice wrapped in silk, the same voice that had once whispered promises and now spat venom. He stepped closer, his designer shoes crunching over broken glass, his prosecutor's suit immaculate even in rage. "Answer me when I'm talking to you, Vivienne." She pressed herself against the kitchen counter, her fingers finding the edge, gripping until her knuckles went white. This was 3 months ago. This was the night she'd decided that staying meant dying. Now, in the present, Vivienne stood behind the bar at Luna's, Baltimore's most exclusive restaurant, polishing wine glasses with mechanical precision. Her hands trembled slightly. They always did when the memories surfaced uninvited. The Friday night crowd buzzed around her, wealthy patrons laughing over $30 cocktails, completely unaware that the woman serving their drinks was barely holding herself together. "Vivienne, table 7 needs another bottle of the Bordeaux." Marcus, the head waiter, touched her shoulder gently, and she flinched before she could stop herself. He noticed. He always noticed. "You okay?" "Fine," she lied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just tired." She wasn't fine. She hadn't been fine since the day she'd packed a single bag while Ethan was at the courthouse, walked out of his pristine townhouse in Federal Hill, and disappeared into the city's underbelly. 3 months of looking over her shoulder. 3 months of jumping at shadows. 3 months of wondering when he would find her. Vivienne grabbed the wine bottle and headed to table 7, weaving through the elegant dining room with practiced grace. Luna's was beautiful in that understated way that screamed money: exposed brick walls, Edison bulbs casting warm amber light, white tablecloths so crisp they could cut. It was owned by Damian Cole, a man whose reputation preceded him like thunder before a storm. Rumors swirled about his connections, his businesses that operated in Baltimore's gray spaces, but Vivienne didn't care about any of that. Luna's paid in cash, didn't ask questions about her lack of references, and most importantly, Ethan would never think to look for her in a place like this. She was pouring wine for a couple celebrating their anniversary when she felt it, that crawling sensation of being watched. Her hand jerked, and a drop of red wine splashed onto the white tablecloth like blood. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, grabbing her cloth napkin to blot the stain. "Let me get you a fresh." "It's fine, sweetheart," the woman said kindly, but Vivienne was already backing away, her heart hammering against her ribs. She turned and locked eyes with Damian Cole. He was standing near the kitchen entrance, perfectly still in the chaos of dinner service, and he was staring directly at her. Not at her face, she realized. At her wrist. At the long sleeve of her black blouse that had ridden up while she was pouring, exposing the finger-shaped bruises that she'd carefully concealed with makeup that morning. Purple and yellow and green, a painter's palette of violence. Vivienne yanked her sleeve down and hurried past him into the kitchen, her breath coming too fast. She leaned against the stainless steel prep counter, pressing her palms against the cool metal. "Hey, you alright?" Sophia, one of the line cooks, glanced over from where she was plating salmon. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Vivienne said automatically. That word again. Fine. The biggest lie she told every single day. The kitchen door swung open and Damian walked in. The entire kitchen seemed to straighten, conversations dropping to murmurs. He commanded space without trying, his presence filling the room like smoke. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair touched with silver at the temples and eyes that missed absolutely nothing. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Vivienne made in 3 months, and when he spoke, his voice was quiet but everyone listened. "Vivienne. My office. Now." It wasn't a request. Her stomach dropped. This was it. He'd seen the bruises, decided she was too much trouble, too much liability. She was going to lose this job, lose the one safe space she'd found, and she'd have to start over again with even less than she had now. She followed him through the kitchen, past the dish station, and up the narrow stairs to his private office on the second floor. The room was masculine and minimalist: dark wood desk, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with first editions. A single window overlooked the inner harbor, where boats bobbed in the dark water. Damien closed the door behind them and gestured to one of the chairs. "Sit." Vivienne sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, preparing for the inevitable. Instead, Damien walked to a cabinet, pulled out a bottle of bourbon and 2 glasses, and poured. He handed her one. "I don't drink on shift," she said quietly. "You're not on shift anymore tonight. Marcus is covering your tables." He sat across from her, his eyes steady on her face. "Who did that to you?" The question hit her like a fist. "I don't know what you don't." His voice was soft but had edges. "I've seen bruises like that before. Defense wounds. Someone grabbed you hard enough to leave marks that are still visible days later. So I'm going to ask you again, and I want the truth. Who hurt you?" Vivienne's throat tightened. She'd spent 3 months hiding, and this stranger with his expensive bourbon and dangerous reputation had seen through her in seconds. "It doesn't matter. I left him. It's over." "Is it?" Damien leaned forward slightly. "Because the way you jumped when Marcus touched you, the way your hands shake when you think no one's watching, the way you scan every face that walks through that door, that doesn't look like over to me. That looks like someone who's still being hunted." Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Why do you care?" Something flickered across his face, something dark and old. "Because I watched my mother live in fear of a man who hurt her. I watched her cover bruises with makeup and long sleeves. I watched her flinch at loud noises and apologize for things that weren't her fault. And when I was 16, she finally got the courage to leave him." He paused, his jaw tight. 3 weeks later, she disappeared. They never found her body, but we all knew what happened. He found her first. Damien's eyes were hard as granite. "So when I see that same terror in someone's eyes, yeah, I care. Because maybe this time I can do something about it." Vivienne's carefully constructed walls crumbled. "His name is Ethan Raines. He's an assistant state's attorney. We were together for 8 months before I realized the charming prosecutor I'd fallen for was a monster." The words came faster now, like poison she'd been holding in too long. "It started small. Criticism disguised as concern. Then isolation from my friends. Then the first time he shoved me, he cried and said the stress of his caseload was killing him. I believed him. I actually believed him. And it escalated," Damien said, not a question. "Every few weeks. A slap. A grab hard enough to bruise. Then choking. The last time, I woke up on the kitchen floor and didn't remember losing consciousness. That's when I knew, stay and die, or run and maybe survive." She met his eyes. "So I ran. I've been hiding for 3 months, working here, keeping my head down. But he's looking for me. He filed a missing person report, told everyone I'm mentally unstable and he's worried. Making himself look like the caring boyfriend while he's actually hunting you," Damien finished. He stood and walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. "Ethan Raines. I know that name. He's prosecuting the Morgan Street gang case, making a name for himself as the golden boy who's tough on organized crime." He turned back to her. "Which means he has resources. Connections. The entire justice system protecting him. That's why I can't go to the police. He knows every cop in the city. Any report I file disappears within hours." Vivienne's voice cracked. "I'm completely alone." "No." Damien's voice was absolute. "You're not alone anymore. As of right now, you're under my protection. You work here, you're part of my organization, and anyone who touches you answers to me. You don't understand. He's not some street thug. I don't care if he's the Attorney General himself." Damien's phone was already in his hand. "I'm going to make a call. Then I'm going to find out everything there is to know about Ethan Raines. And then I'm going to make sure he never comes near you again. Why would you do this for me?" Vivienne whispered. You barely know me. Damien looked at her for a long moment. Because I couldn't save my mother. But I can save you. 2 hours later, Vivienne was sitting in a booth at the empty restaurant, nursing a cup of coffee while Damien made calls in his office. Marcus had been sent home, the doors were locked, and the only sound was the hum of the refrigerators in the kitchen. She should have felt trapped, but instead she felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Safe. The office door opened and a man descended the stairs. He was massive, easily 6'4", built like he could break a person in half without trying. Dark skin, shaved head, a scar running through his left eyebrow. He moved with the economy of someone who'd seen combat. Vivienne Cross? His voice was surprisingly gentle for someone so intimidating. Yes? Rico Vargas. I work with Damien. He slid into the booth across from her. I'm going to be your shadow for the next few days. Anywhere you go, I go. You sleep, I'm outside your door. You work, I'm in the corner. You take a breath, I'm counting them. That's not necessary. Vivienne started, but Rico held up a hand. With respect, ma'am, it absolutely is. Damien filled me in on your situation. Ethan Raines is dangerous, connected, and according to the preliminary background check we just ran, he's got a history. 3 prior girlfriends with restraining orders that mysteriously vanished from court records. 2 domestic violence calls that never went anywhere. And hospital records that someone with serious pull managed to seal. Rico's expression darkened. He's done this before. You're not his first victim. Which means he's practiced at hiding it. Vivienne's stomach churned. There are others? We're others. We're still tracking them down. Rico pulled out a tablet and turned it toward her. But here's what we know so far. Ethan Raines, 34, graduated top of his class from University of Maryland Law. Clerked for a federal judge. Joined the state's attorney's office 6 years ago and has been climbing fast. He's got a conviction rate of 92%, which is almost impossible unless you're very good or very dirty. He's both, Vivienne said bitterly. I watched him fabricate evidence on a case once. When I asked him about it, he said justice isn't about truth, it's about winning. I should have left then. You left when you were ready, Rico said. That's what matters. Now we make sure you stay gone. Damien emerged from his office with another person, a woman in her late 20s with short purple hair, multiple piercings, and a laptop bag slung over her shoulder. She had that particular energy of someone who lived online and was most comfortable behind a screen. Vivienne, this is Sophia Kane. Best hacker I know. Damien made the introduction smoothly. Sophia's going to dig into Ethan's digital life and find everything he's tried to hide. Sophia dropped into the booth next to Rico and cracked her knuckles. Already started. Your ex is sloppy with his personal security. Uses the same password for everything, his dog's name plus his law school graduation year. Pathetic. Her fingers flew across her keyboard. Give me 48 hours and I'll have his entire life mapped out. Emails, text messages, financial records, sealed court documents. If it exists digitally, I'll find it. Isn't that illegal? Vivienne asked. Sophia grinned. Extremely. But so is beating women and using your position to cover it up. I figure we're about even on the morality scale. Sophia also set up a dead man's switch. Damien added. If anything happens to you, or to any of us, everything we find on Ethan gets automatically released to every news outlet in Maryland. It's insurance. Vivienne looked around at these 3 strangers who'd decided to wage war on her behalf. I don't understand. Why are you all doing this? Rico and Sophia exchanged glances, then looked at Damien. He sat down next to Vivienne, and when he spoke, his voice carried weight. Because the law failed you. The system that's supposed to protect people like you is being used as a weapon against you. And sometimes, when the system is broken, you need people who operate outside it. He met her eyes. I'm not going to lie to you, Vivienne. What we're about to do isn't legal. It's not clean. But it's necessary. And if you want out, if you want to handle this some other way, I'll respect that. But if you want him stopped, if you want to make sure he never hurts you or anyone else again, then you let us do what we do best. Vivienne thought about the last 3 months. The fear. The constant looking over her shoulder. The nightmares that left her gasping awake in a cold sweat. The way she'd become a ghost of herself, too scared to exist fully in the world. And she thought about Ethan, still out there, still powerful, probably already looking for his next victim. Stop him, she said. Whatever it takes. Just stop him. Damien nodded once. Then we have work to do. Rico, I want 24/7 protection on Vivienne. Sophia, I need everything on Rains by Sunday. And I'm going to make some calls to people who owe me favors. What kind of people? Vivienne asked. The kind who can make an assistant state's attorney's life very difficult without him ever knowing where the pressure's coming from. Damien stood. Go home, get some rest. Tomorrow, your new life starts. As Rico escorted her out to his car, a black SUV with tinted windows, Vivienne realized something had shifted. For 3 months she'd been running. Now, finally, she was going to fight back. She just hoped she was strong enough to survive what came next. The night air was cold against her face as they drove through Baltimore's streets. Rico kept checking his mirrors, alert for any tails. They were passing through Federal Hill when Vivienne saw it, Ethan's silver BMW parked outside his townhouse, lights on in the upstairs window. He was right there. Less than 100 yards away. The man who terrorized her, who still had the power to destroy her with a single phone call. I see it, Rico said quietly, following her gaze. Don't worry. His time is coming. But as they drove away, Vivienne couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan knew. Somehow, he knew she was still in Baltimore. And he was waiting. The next morning, Vivienne woke to sunlight streaming through the blinds of her tiny studio apartment in Hampton and the sound of her phone buzzing. A text from an unknown number. It's Damien. Meeting at Luna's, 10 a.m. Important. She showered quickly, covering the fading bruises on her wrists with long sleeves, and found Rico waiting outside her building in his SUV. He handed her a coffee without a word, and they drove in comfortable silence to the restaurant. Luna's looked different in daylight, less mysterious, more exposed. But when she walked in, she found it had been transformed into a war room. Damien stood at a table covered in documents and photographs. Sophia had 3 laptops running simultaneously, screens filled with data. And there was someone new, a woman in her 50s with silver hair pulled back severely, wearing a tailored pantsuit that screamed political power. Vivienne, this is Senator Mara Whitfield, Damien said. Senator Vivienne Cross. The senator extended her hand, and Vivienne shook it, feeling completely out of her depth. Senator Whitfield serves on the State Judiciary Committee. She also lost her daughter to domestic violence 5 years ago. When I told her about your situation, she wanted to help. My daughter's boyfriend was a police officer, Senator Whitfield said, her voice controlled but carrying old pain. He knew exactly how to hurt her without leaving evidence. By the time anyone took it seriously, it was too late. So when Damien called me about a prosecutor abusing his position to terrorize women, I cleared my schedule. She turned to Sophia. Show her what you found. Sophia spun one of her laptops around. The screen showed a spreadsheet with names, dates, and case numbers. Ethan Rains has been busy. In the last 6 years, he's had 4 serious relationships. All 4 women filed police reports for domestic violence. All 4 reports disappeared from the system within 72 hours. 2 of the women left the state. 1 moved to Texas and changed her name. And the 4th, Sophia's expression darkened, died in what was ruled an accidental fall downstairs. Except the medical examiner's preliminary notes, which I found in an archived server backup, mentioned injuries consistent with being pushed. Vivienne felt the room tilt. He killed someone? We can't prove it, Damien said carefully. The case was closed, the ME's concerns were never officially filed, and the woman's family accepted a settlement from Ethan's homeowner's insurance. But the pattern is clear. He's been doing this for years, and he's gotten away with it because he knows how to manipulate the system. There's more, Sophia continued, pulling up another file. Ethan's not just covering up his own crimes. He's running a protection racket inside the state's attorney's office. 3 defense attorneys have been paying him to tank cases against their clients. He's taking bribes, suppressing evidence, and manipulating plea deals. We're talking about dozens of criminals walking free because Ethan wants money and power. Senator Whitfield leaned forward. This is bigger than one abusive man. This is corruption that's poisoning the entire justice system. If we play this right, we don't just stop him, we dismantle his entire network. How? Vivienne asked, finding her voice. By being smarter than he is, Damien said. Ethan thinks he's untouchable because he has friends in the police department and the courthouse. But he doesn't have friends in the state legislature, and he doesn't have friends in the federal system. Senator Whitfield is going to initiate a quiet ethics review through her committee. Sophia is going to keep digging and building our evidence file. Rico is going to keep you safe while we work. And I'm going to start applying pressure in places Ethan won't see coming. What kind of pressure? Vivienne asked. Damien smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I have relationships with people Ethan prosecutes. Defense attorneys, bail bondsmen, investigators. Word's going to spread that any case Ethan touches is compromised. His conviction rate is about to plummet, which means his reputation takes a hit. And when people start questioning his competence, they start questioning everything else. Meanwhile, Senator Whitfield added, I'll be having private conversations with the state's attorney himself. Nothing accusatory, just concerns about irregularities in certain cases. Questions about why domestic violence reports keep disappearing. The kind of questions that make ambitious prosecutors very nervous. Vivienne looked at the conspiracy forming around her, a criminal, a hacker, a senator, and an enforcer, all working to bring down one man. What if he finds out? What if he comes after me before you can stop him? Then he deals with me, Rico said from his position by the door. And trust me, that's a fight he'll lose. Over the next 2 weeks, Vivienne watched the plan unfold like a chess game. She went to work, served tables, pretended everything was normal while her world was being systematically reconstructed. Rico was always there, in the corner of the restaurant during her shifts, outside her apartment at night, a silent guardian who made her feel protected for the first time in a year. But she also started to see Damien differently. He came by Luna's every evening, always finding a reason to check in. At first, she thought it was just professional concern. But then there were the small moments. The way his hand lingered when he handed her a glass of water, the way his eyes softened when she laughed at something Marcus said, the way he listened when she talked, really listened, like her words mattered. One night, after the restaurant closed, they sat together at the bar while Sophia worked in the office upstairs. Tell me something about yourself that has nothing to do with Ethan, Damien said, pouring them both whiskey. Something real. Vivienne considered the question. I wanted to be a teacher. Before everything, I was studying education at Towson. I loved working with kids, loved the idea of shaping young minds. But when I met Ethan, he convinced me to quit school and focus on supporting his career. Said my dreams were small compared to what he was building. She took a sip of whiskey, the burn grounding her. I actually believed him. I let him make me smaller until I almost disappeared. You didn't disappear, Damien said quietly. You survived. And now you're taking your life back. With your help. You were already fighting before you met me. I'm just providing backup. He studied her face in the dim bar light. When this is over, what do you want? I want to feel safe walking down the street. I want to sleep through the night without nightmares. I want to be Vivienne again, whoever she is without fear defining her. She met his eyes. What about you? When this is over, what do you want? Damien was quiet for a long moment. I want to stop seeing my mother's face every time I close my eyes. I want to believe that maybe, just maybe, saving you means I didn't completely fail her. Vivienne reached across the bar and took his hand. His fingers were warm, calloused, strong. You didn't fail her. She would be proud of what you're doing. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for you. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither was quite ready to name. The moment broke when Sophia came thundering down the stairs, laptop in hand, her face lit with fierce triumph. I've got him. I've got everything. They gathered around her computer as she pulled up files that made Vivienne's blood run cold. Text messages between Ethan and a police captain, coordinating the suppression of domestic violence reports. Bank records showing payments from defense attorneys to a shell company Ethan controlled. Audio files of him coaching witnesses to commit perjury. Photos of him meeting with known criminals he was supposed to be prosecuting. This is enough to send him to prison for 20 years, Senator Whitfield said, having arrived minutes after Sophia's call. Corruption, witness tampering, bribery, obstruction of justice. We have him. Not yet, Damien said. Evidence means nothing if we can't guarantee it gets to the right people. We need to time this perfectly. The ethics hearing is scheduled for next week, the senator said. I can present this evidence there, but we should coordinate with the media. Maximum exposure means maximum pressure. I'll handle the media, Sophia said. Anonymous leak to the Baltimore Sun, copies to every major outlet in the state. By the time Ethan knows what's happening, it'll be too late to stop it. Vivienne listened to them plan, feeling hope unfurl in her chest for the first time. This was really happening. Ethan was going to pay for everything he'd done. But that night, as Rico drove her home, she saw the silver BMW again. This time it was parked across from her apartment building, engine running, windows dark. Ethan was watching her building. Stay in the car, Rico ordered, his hand moving to the gun at his hip. He reached for his phone to call Damien. But before he could dial, the BMW's headlights flashed once, twice. A message. A threat. Then Ethan drove away, leaving nothing but tire marks and the sick certainty that he knew exactly where she lived. He knows where you live, Damien said, pacing his office like a caged animal. It was past midnight, but no one was sleeping. Vivienne sat on the leather couch, wrapped in a blanket Rico had grabbed from somewhere, still shaking from seeing Ethan's car. This changes everything. It doesn't change anything, Senator Whitfield said firmly. We're 4 days away from the ethics hearing. We hold the course. 4 days is a lifetime when you're dealing with a man who's killed before. Damien shot back. He's escalating. The fact that he showed himself means he's getting desperate. Or confident, Sophia said from her nest of computers. I've been monitoring his communications. He knows something's coming, but he doesn't know what. He's trying to flush out who's working against him. Then we move her, Rico said. Tonight. Somewhere he'll never think to look. No. Vivienne's voice was stronger than she felt. I'm not running anymore. I'm done hiding. Damien stopped pacing and looked at her. Vivienne, this man is dangerous. If he's willing to park outside your building, then let him come. She stood, letting the blanket fall. You've all been working so hard to protect me, to build this case against him. But I'm the one he hurt. I'm the one who has to face him. She turned to Senator Whitfield. You said other victims might come forward at the hearing. How many? 2 confirmed. Jenna Arlo, who dated him 3 years ago, and Michelle Torres, who was with him before you. Both are willing to testify if they know they're not alone. Then I'm testifying too, Vivienne said. Not anonymously. Not hidden behind sealed documents. I'm going to stand up in that hearing room and tell everyone exactly what Ethan Raines did to me. That's incredibly brave, Senator Whitfield said. And incredibly dangerous. Once you go public, there's no taking it back. Your name will be in the news. Your story will be everywhere. And Ethan will know you're the one who brought him down. Good, Vivienne said. I want him to know. I want him to understand that I'm not his victim anymore. I'm the one who destroyed him. Damien watched her with something like awe. You're sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. All right, he said finally. Then we do this right. Rico, you're moving into the apartment across the hall from Vivienne. I don't care what it costs, I want you within 10 feet of her at all times. Sophia, I want every camera on that street monitored. If Ethan so much as drives down that block, I want to know about it. Senator, expedite that hearing if you can. The faster we move, the less time he has to retaliate. I'll make calls in the morning. Senator Whitfield promised. We might be able to move it up to Monday. 3 days, Damien said. We keep her safe for 3 days, then we end this. Over the next 72 hours, Vivienne felt like she was living in the eye of a hurricane. Rico moved into the apartment across the hall, and she could hear him moving around at all hours, always alert, always ready. Sophia installed cameras and motion sensors throughout Vivienne's building. Damien came by every evening after Luna's closed, bringing dinner and staying to talk until late into the night. They talked about everything: his childhood in Baltimore's rough neighborhoods, how he built his organization from nothing, the line he walked between criminal and protector. She told him about growing up in Detroit, her dreams of teaching, the person she'd been before Ethan had tried to erase her. When this is over, Damien said one night, sitting on her couch with Chinese takeout containers spread between them, "What's the first thing you're going to do?" "Walk outside without looking over my shoulder," Vivienne said immediately. "Maybe go to the inner harbor. Watch the boats. Just exist without fear for a few hours." She paused. "What about you?" "I'm going to take you to dinner. A real date, not just strategy meetings and crisis management. Somewhere nice, where we can talk about normal things like normal people." "We're not normal people," Vivienne said softly. "No," Damien agreed, his eyes meeting hers. "But maybe we could pretend for one night." The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Then Damien's phone buzzed, shattering the intimacy. He checked it, and his expression darkened. "Sophia found something. We need to go." At Luna's, Sophia had multiple screens pulled up, all showing the same thing: security footage from the courthouse. "This was taken yesterday," she said, pulling up a video. "That's Ethan meeting with Captain Wade from Baltimore PD. Wade's the one who's been burying the domestic violence reports." They watched as Ethan and Wade had what looked like an intense conversation in a courthouse hallway. No audio, but the body language was clear. Wade was scared, Ethan was angry. "Wade knows we're coming," Senator Whitfield said. "Someone must have tipped him off about the ethics investigation." "So he told Ethan," Damien finished. "Which means Ethan knows he's running out of time." "Look at the timestamp," Sophia said. "This was filmed 20 hours ago. Which means Ethan's known for almost a full day that his protection is crumbling." As if summoned by speaking his name, Vivienne's phone rang. Unknown number. Her hands started shaking. "Don't answer it," Rico said immediately. But Vivienne was already reaching for the phone. "I need to hear his voice. I need to stop being afraid of him," she answered on speaker. "Hello, Vivienne." Ethan's voice was calm, controlled, the same voice that had once made her feel safe and now made her skin crawl. "I know you're there. I know you're listening. We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about," Vivienne said, proud that her voice only shook a little. "Oh, I think we do. You see, I've been hearing some interesting things. Rumors about an ethics investigation. Questions being asked about my cases. And I can't help but wonder, is my missing girlfriend, the one I've been so worried about, actually behind all of this? I'm not your girlfriend. I'm the woman you beat until I had to flee for my life." Ethan laughed, and the sound made everyone in the room tense. "That's a serious accusation, Vivienne. Especially coming from someone who's mentally unstable. That's what the police report says, remember? That you're having a breakdown and I'm concerned for your welfare. Who do you think they'll believe, a respected prosecutor or a waitress with no credibility?" "They'll believe the evidence," Vivienne said. "They'll believe the hospital records you tried to seal. They'll believe the other women you've hurt. They'll believe the truth." Silence on the other end. Then, you have no idea what you're starting. No idea who you're dealing with. I've built my career destroying people smarter than you. What makes you think you can touch me? Because I'm not alone anymore, Vivienne said, looking at Damien. And because this time you picked the wrong victim. We'll see about that, Ethan said. I'll see you soon, Vivienne. Real soon. The line went dead. That was a threat, Rico said immediately. He's coming for her. Then let him come, Damien said, his voice ice. We're ready. But Vivienne wasn't so sure. She'd heard something in Ethan's voice, something beyond anger or desperation. She'd heard certainty. Like he knew something they didn't. Sunday night, the night before the ethics hearing, Vivienne couldn't sleep. Rico was across the hall, Sophia was monitoring every camera feed, and Damien had promised to call if anything changed. But she felt restless, trapped in her tiny apartment with her thoughts spinning. She got up to get water from the kitchen, and that's when she heard it. A key turning in her front door lock. Her blood turned to ice. She changed the locks when she moved in. The only people who had keys were the landlord and... The door opened and Ethan stepped inside. Vivienne's scream caught in her throat as Ethan closed the door behind him with terrifying calm. He looked exactly as she remembered. Expensive suit, perfect hair, that smile that had once made her feel cherished and now made her want to run. But there was something different in his eyes tonight. Something unhinged. "Hello, Vivienne," he said conversationally, as if he'd just come home from work. "You've been hard to find. But I always find what belongs to me. I don't belong to you." Vivienne backed toward the kitchen, her mind racing. Rico was across the hall, but would he hear her if she screamed? Her phone was on the nightstand, too far away. The kitchen was closer. There were knives in the kitchen. "Of course you do," Ethan said, taking a step forward. "You'll always belong to me. Did you really think you could hide? Did you think you could turn people against me? I'm Ethan Raines. I've sent murderers to prison. I've destroyed criminal empires. And you thought a waitress and some washed-up senator could take me down? You're finished, Ethan. Tomorrow morning, everyone will know what you are." He laughed, and it was the sound of something breaking. "Tomorrow morning, you're not going to make it to that hearing. Because you're going to disappear, just like you should have 3 months ago. I tried to love you, Vivienne. I tried to make you perfect. But you insisted on being difficult." He lunged. Vivienne ran for the kitchen, her bare feet slipping on the hardwood. She heard Ethan behind her, his breathing heavy, and then his hand caught her shoulder, spinning her around. She scratched at his face, her nails drawing blood, and he backhanded her so hard she saw stars. "That's what I miss," Ethan said, grabbing her by the throat. "The fight. You always did fight back, even when you knew it would hurt worse. It's almost endearing." Vivienne couldn't breathe. His fingers were crushing her windpipe, and she was back in his kitchen 3 months ago, on the floor, dying. But this time was different. This time, she'd been preparing. Damien had taught her things during those late-night talks. Where to hit to cause maximum pain. How to break a hold. How to survive. She brought her knee up hard between Ethan's legs. He grunted, his grip loosening just enough for her to twist away. She stumbled into the kitchen, her hand finding the drawer where she kept the knives, but Ethan was already on her again, slamming her against the refrigerator. "You stupid bitch," he snarled, all pretense of control gone now. "You should have stayed gone. Should have just disappeared. But you had to come back. Had to try to destroy me. Now I'm going to make sure you really disappear this time." His hands were around her throat again, squeezing, and Vivienne's vision started to dim. This was it. She'd fought so hard, and it wasn't enough. She was going to die in her own kitchen while Rico slept across the hall. Then she remembered. The gun. Damien had given her a gun 2 days ago, made her promise to keep it close. She'd hidden it in the drawer next to the sink, within reach but out of sight. Her hand groped blindly along the counter, fingers scrambling, and then she felt cold metal. She pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening in the small kitchen. Ethan's eyes went wide with shock and he stumbled backward, his hand going to his shoulder where blood was already blooming across his expensive shirt. Vivienne fell to the floor, gasping for air, the gun shaking in her hands. "You shot me," Ethan said like he couldn't believe it. "You actually shot me." The apartment door exploded inward. Rico burst in, gun drawn, taking in the scene instantly. Behind him came Damien, his face a mask of fury and fear, and then Sophia with her phone out, already calling 911. "Don't move," Rico ordered Ethan, his weapon trained on the injured prosecutor. "Hands where I can see them." But Ethan wasn't looking at Rico. He was staring at Vivienne, at the woman who'd been his victim and was now the one holding the gun. "This isn't over," he said. "You think this changes anything? I'll say you lured me here. I'll say you attacked me. You'll say nothing," Damien said, kneeling beside Vivienne and gently taking the gun from her trembling hands. "Because every second of what just happened is on camera. Sophia had this entire apartment wired 3 days ago. We have you breaking in. We have you assaulting her. We have you threatening to kill her. And we have her shooting you in self-defense." Ethan's face went white. "You set me up." "No," Vivienne said, finding her voice though it came out raw and broken. "You walked into a trap because you were so arrogant you thought you were untouchable. But I touched you, Ethan. I survived you. And now everyone will know what you really are." Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Rico kept his gun on Ethan while Sophia filmed everything, creating an unbreakable record. And Damien held Vivienne as she shook with adrenaline and terror and relief. "You're safe now," he murmured into her hair. "It's over. He can't hurt you anymore." "I shot him," Vivienne whispered. "I actually shot him. You defended yourself. You survived. That's all that matters." The police arrived, not the officers Ethan had bought, but detectives that Senator Whitfield had personally requested. They took statements, photographed the scene, and arrested Ethan Raines for breaking and entering, assault, and attempted murder. As they led him out in handcuffs, his shoulder bandaged by paramedics, he locked eyes with Vivienne one last time. She stared back without flinching. Without fear. The man who terrorized her for months was finally in handcuffs, bleeding and broken, while she was still standing. The next morning, while Ethan was being arraigned from a hospital bed, Senator Whitfield held her ethics hearing. But it wasn't quiet or private anymore. Sophia had leaked everything, the videos, the financial records, the testimony from other victims, and most damning of all, the security footage from Vivienne's apartment showing a prosecutor breaking in to kill the woman trying to expose him. Every news outlet in Maryland was covering it. By noon, it was national news. The Golden Boy prosecutor who'd been hiding a monster beneath his perfect exterior. The women he'd abused. The system he'd corrupted. And the woman who'd finally stopped him. Vivienne watched the coverage from Damien's office, Rico standing guard and Sophia monitoring social media as the story exploded across the internet. She felt numb, overwhelmed, and strangely free. "There are reporters outside Luna's," Sophia said. "They want to talk to you." "Not yet," Vivienne said. "I'm not ready." "You don't have to be ready," Damien said quietly. "You don't owe anyone your story. You've already done more than enough." But 3 days later, when Jenna Arlo and Michelle Torres and 2 other women whose names Vivienne didn't know all stood together at a press conference, she knew what she had to do. She put on her best dress, let Sophia do her makeup to hide the bruises on her neck from Ethan's final attack, and walked out to face the cameras. "My name is Vivienne Cross," she said, her voice steady despite the dozens of microphones pointed at her. "And I'm a survivor." She told her story. All of it. The charm that turned to control. The love that became violence. The fear that nearly destroyed her. And the choice to fight back. "Ethan Raines tried to make me disappear," she said. "He tried to silence me, to erase me, to kill me. But I'm still here. We're all still here." She gestured to the other women beside her. And we're done being quiet. The questions came fast and loud, but Senator Whitfield stepped up to field them, giving Vivienne space to breathe. As she stepped back from the podium, Damien was waiting. "You were amazing," he said. "I was terrified. Bravery isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway." He offered his arm. "Come on. Let's get you somewhere quiet." They drove to the inner harbor, to the place Vivienne had said she wanted to go when everything was over. They walked along the waterfront in silence, watching boats drift across the water, tourists laughing, the city moving on like it always did. "What happens now?" Vivienne asked. "Ethan goes to trial. With everything we have, he's looking at 20 years minimum. His law license is already suspended. His career is over. And Captain Wade and 3 other officers are under federal investigation." Damien paused. "But that's not what you're asking, is it?" "No. You're asking what happens to us," Damien said. "To you and me." Vivienne stopped walking and turned to face him. The late afternoon sun caught his face, highlighting the silver in his hair, the lines around his eyes that spoke of hard years and harder choices. "I don't know how to do this. How to be with someone after everything that happened. How to trust that you won't." "I'm not him," Damien said firmly. "I will never be him. And if you need time, if you need space, if you need to figure out who you are without fear defining you, I understand. I'll wait. What if waiting takes years? Then I'll wait years." He took her hands gently, his touch warm and steady. "Vivienne, you're not a project to me. You're not someone I saved who now owes me something. You're a woman I admire, who fought her way out of hell and came out stronger. Whatever happens between us happens because you want it, not because you feel obligated." Tears pricked Vivienne's eyes. "I don't know what I want yet. I don't even know who I am anymore." "Then figure it out. Go back to school if that's what you want. Become a teacher. Travel. Do all the things Ethan tried to take from you." Damien smiled. "I'll be here when you're ready. If you're ever ready. And if I'm never ready? Then I'll be grateful I knew you at all." Vivienne stood on her toes and kissed him, soft and brief, a promise of possibility rather than commitment. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For believing me when no one else would. For helping me fight back." "You did the fighting," Damien said. "I just cleared some obstacles." They stood there for a long moment, the Baltimore skyline stretching behind them, the water reflecting the setting sun. 2 people who'd found each other in darkness, and were now standing in the light. 6 months later, Vivienne stood in front of a classroom at a community college in Baltimore, teaching her first English literature class. 20 students stared back at her, some eager, some bored, all of them unaware that their teacher had been on national news for bringing down a corrupt prosecutor. She'd gone back to school, finished her degree, and applied for every teaching position she could find. This wasn't her dream job yet, that would come with time and experience, but it was a start. It was proof that she'd survived. That she'd rebuilt. Rico still checked in weekly, claiming he was in the neighborhood. Sophia sent her memes and random texts about cases she was working on. Senator Whitfield had become something like a mentor, helping Vivienne navigate the aftermath of going public with her story. And Damien kept his promise. He waited. They had dinner once a month, always in public places, always with clear boundaries. He asked about her classes, her students, her life. She asked about Luna's, about his work, about the empire he'd built from Baltimore's shadows. They talked like friends, carefully avoiding anything that felt too much like romance. Until one night, after dinner at a quiet restaurant in Fells Point, Vivienne took his hand as they walked to his car. "I think I'm ready," she said. "Ready for what?" "To stop being careful. To stop treating you like you might break me." She stopped walking and turned to face him. "I've spent 6 months figuring out who I am. I'm a teacher. I'm a survivor. I'm a woman who shoots her abuser in self-defense and lives to tell about it. And I'm also someone who wants to see where this goes." Damien's expression softened. You're sure? I'm terrified, Vivienne admitted. But I'm also sure. You're not Ethan. You've never treated me like property or tried to make me smaller. You've only ever helped me grow. And maybe that's what love is supposed to look like. Love? Damien repeated, a smile playing at his lips. Too soon? No. He pulled her closer, his hands gentle on her waist. Not too soon at all. Their first kiss was different from the one at the inner harbor. That one had been a goodbye to who they'd been during the crisis. This one was a hello to who they might become together. Just so we're clear, Vivienne said when they broke apart, I'm not moving in with you. I'm not giving up my apartment or my independence or any of the things I fought to get back. I wouldn't want you to. And we're going slow. Like glacially slow. I have nowhere else to be. And if I have a bad day, if I have nightmares or panic attacks or just need space, then you take the space you need. Damien interrupted gently. Vivienne, we do this at your pace. Always. The second it feels like too much, you tell me. Deal? Deal. 1 year after the night Ethan broke into her apartment, Vivienne sat in a courtroom and watched him be sentenced to 22 years in prison. Corruption, assault, attempted murder, and a dozen other charges that had emerged during the investigation. His law license was permanently revoked. His reputation was destroyed. And he'd spend the next 2 decades in a cell, thinking about the woman who'd beaten him. Vivienne didn't feel triumphant. She felt complete. Like a chapter had finally closed. In the hallway afterward, journalists swarmed, but she'd learned how to handle them. She gave them a brief statement about justice being served, thanked Senator Whitfield and the prosecutors, and then walked away with Damien at her side. How do you feel? He asked as they drove away from the courthouse. Free, Vivienne said. Finally, actually free. That night, they went to Luna's for dinner. Marcus fussed over her table, bringing out special dishes the chef had prepared. Sophia stopped by with champagne. Rico showed up with a card signed by everyone at Damien's organization, congratulating her on her victory. It felt like family. Not the family she'd been born into. Her parents still didn't fully understand what had happened or why she'd stayed with Ethan as long as she had. But the family she'd chosen. The people who'd seen her at her worst and helped her become her best. I have something for you, Damien said after everyone had left and they were alone at the table. He pulled out a small box, and Vivienne's heart jumped until she saw it was too big to be a ring. Don't panic. It's not what you think. She opened the box to find a key. What's this? A key to my house. Not because I want you to move in, I know you're not ready for that. But because I want you to know you always have a safe place. If you ever need somewhere to go, somewhere to breathe, somewhere to just be without explaining yourself, you can use it. Vivienne held the key, feeling the weight of what it represented. Trust. Safety. Partnership without possession. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For saving me when I couldn't save myself. For teaching me how to fight back. For giving me space to heal. For waiting while I figured out who I was. You saved yourself, Damien said, the same thing he told her a dozen times. I just provided some support. We saved each other, Vivienne corrected. You said you couldn't save your mother. But by saving me, maybe you saved both of us. They stayed at Luna's until late, talking about the future instead of the past for once. About Vivienne's career goals, about Damien's plans to expand his legitimate businesses and slowly leave the criminal world behind, about the possibility of a life built on trust instead of trauma. When Damien drove her home that night, he walked her to her door like he always did. But this time, when she unlocked it, she turned back and pulled him into a kiss that promised tomorrows instead of just surviving todays. I love you, she said, the words feeling strange and wonderful in her mouth. I'm not sure when it happened, but I love you. I love you too, Damien said. I have for a while now. Even when I was broken? You were never broken. You were healing. There's a difference. Vivienne smiled, really smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and meant it. Good answer. She watched him drive away, then went inside her apartment, her space, her sanctuary, the place she'd defended with violence and reclaimed with courage. The bruises had faded. The nightmares came less frequently. And slowly, day by day, she was becoming someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who looked at darkness and chosen light anyway. Her phone buzzed with a text from Damien. Tomorrow night? Dinner and a movie like normal people? She typed back. Normal people sounds perfect. And it did. After everything, the violence, the fear, the fight, the victory, normal sounded like the greatest gift imaginable. Vivienne Cross had survived. She'd fought back. She'd won. And now, finally, she was learning to live again. If you've made it this far, thank you for following Vivienne's journey from victim to survivor to warrior. Her story reminds us that sometimes the only way to fight corruption and abuse is to stand up and refuse to be silent, even when the system fails us. If this story moved you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which moment resonated most. Was it when Vivienne first fought back? When Damien chose to protect her? Or when she stood at that press conference and reclaimed her voice? Subscribe for more stories about courage, survival, and the complicated people who choose to do the right thing even when it's hard. And remember, if you or someone you know is in an abusive situation, you're not alone. There are resources and people who can help. Stay strong, stay brave, and keep fighting for the life you deserve.